the power to make a true impression. If you're charged with a crime in Michigan, you're going to be judged by the four corners of the police report. That's just the reality of the situation. The prosecutor, the judge, the police department, they're so used to seeing thousands and thousands of cases rolling through where it's a name and a charge. My goal for my clients is to change that perception. The way to do that is to lead by being authentic, to be your true self. We need to put factors into motion that's going to change the perspective of your case for the key players. The judge and prosecutor need to put aside what they think they know, and they need to adopt the reality of who you are as a person. Someone coming to this case charged with a crime, likely no prior offenses, someone who respects the law, someone who wants to learn from this. You can see here on my page on the blog, Michigan Empathy Defense, I go through leading with empathy, and that's really step one of the process. And it's really important here to understand your higher purpose. Why did you get yourself in trouble? Was it something going on mentally, emotionally? What is your higher purpose of coming to this case? We must master that in order to sway the knowing. The folks that think they know you, the folks that want to judge you and define you by this case. People make changes for many reasons. Your change may come from your spouse, your children, your job, what you want to do in life. Why do you wake up every morning? What motivates you? That's going to be the starting point for finding your higher purpose, leading with empathy, and making real change in your case. Challenging the status quo is step 2 of leading with empathy in a criminal case. The status quo means, what is the default outcome for most folks in your situation? How are these folks punished? How are these folks branded a criminal for the rest of their lives? Our goal in leading with empathy is to challenge that status quo. Right now, you're feeling stressed. You feel like you're at a dead end. You don't know what's going to happen. My goal for you is to go back to a normal lifestyle with true changes that can help us challenge the status quo. Be yourself, be vulnerable, cry, laugh, yell, do what you need to do. You're a human being who has ups and downs. The fact that you're charged with a crime right now doesn't define you. This doesn't mean your life is going to change for the worse. This means my goal for you is for your life to change for the better. Challenge the status quo. This is what I have on my website for step number 2. When you read through it, it's important to understand that we need to set the bar high, because the prosecutor, the judge, and the police department are judging you based upon what they think they know about you, not the true representation of who you are. This starts with changing the culture around your case. Change is not easy, but change is possible. Together, we will challenge that status quo and allow the real you to shine in your case. Step number 3 of leading with empathy is transformative change. This is shifting the status quo of your case, making the pivot, and not viewing your case as black or white. Your case is in the many shades of the gray. We must take control of the culture of the case and adopt a leader's vision in how we want to define your case. With transformative change, we can spark new growth. This is the growth that happens in you when you find yourself charged with a crime. It can transcend the entire case when a judge, a prosecutor, and the police department better understand why you're before them charged with a crime. Why someone like you, who respects the law, who knows what you did is wrong, how did we still end up here? We must reject the status quo, and we must learn from our current situation. Through transformative change, we can empower others to adopt our path of growth, to gain allies in your case and not enemies. There are no enemies in your criminal case. There are only allies to bring to us to embrace what we're doing. We want to be inspired about this potential change and how the world can view us when this case is over. Everything is going to be okay, but transformative change is how we end up in a better place together. Step number 4 of leading with empathy is transformative leadership without authority. This means in your case that the judge, the prosecutor, and the police department have formal powers in your case. The police officers have the power to arrest. The prosecutor has the power to charge you with a serious crime. And the judge has the authority to rule the entire case and ultimately decide what your bond conditions are, what your punishment's going to be for jail or probation. These are formal powers. Myself and my clients create transformative change without any authority. That means that our power comes from informal authority. This is different than the powers of the other folks in the case, but it is more powerful. Together, by adopting a proactive plan and changing the narrative about your case, changing the culture around your case, we can attract the commitment of those folks with formal power. Our informal influence, by gaining allies of folks that have real power, can create that transformative change in your case. By having a prosecutor adopt our vision of the case, they can use their formal powers to help us in our case. To gain the support of the judge through our informal power, using his or her power, their formal power in our case, can bring real change to our case. Informal authority is the key to transformative leadership. Step number 5 of leading with empathy is moral power is the key to freedom. This means in our case, our informal power can be gained from using moral power. To attract those folks in the case with our purpose and our true change can shift the collective good and the aligned interest toward the very best outcome. Our goal is to unify all parties to the collective good of your future. Someone charged with a crime can have real change, and have real change with the support of a judge and a prosecutor. Moral power creates freedom and brings down the anxiety and the stress of your case. You can be a leader of change with focus on both the present and the future. When you transform your case and understand how you ended up in this situation, you are free to grow. You are free to express yourself and to gain insight into how you ended up here. Moral power is the key to freedom in your criminal case. Step number 6 of leading with empathy is individualized consideration. This means that every client should be treated like their own person. They should be treated like a human, not like a name and a charge on a piece of paper. It's easy for the court and prosecutor to do this for efficiency, to see a name and a charge and a big stack of files and treat everyone the same. We can't treat a criminal case like a problem to solve and a problem to go away, because there's a real person behind every case. This person needs individualized treatment. They need to be able to tell their story. In order to receive the best result in the case and the more equitable result, we need to color the case. Your case is not black or white. We need to humanize and tell your story. The story of how we ended up here, faced with a crime, what we're doing in the present, and what we plan to do in the future in order to turn this into a growth opportunity and to come out of this case a wiser and stronger person. Step number 7 in leading with empathy is motivating and inspiring. This means that the court is busy, the prosecutor, the judge, they have a lot of work to do. And it's unfortunate that the majority of cases don't get the attention they deserve. It's our role to create a vision behind your case, to bring other parties into your story and what makes your case unique. We need to create that vision of where you're going in the future and motivate the parties in the case to come along with us. It's easy to view your case as a troublemaker, someone that needs to be punished, and someone that we place on an assembly line step by step, finish the case, bring on a new case. This is not fair to you because this case is going to impact your life and it's going to create many changes. It's our goal to make those positive changes. We're seeking the collective good of society, and part of that means you understanding how we ended up here and going forward, how we can avoid future situations, but also how to build and grow off of this moment and become a stronger and more insightful person. Step number 8 of leading with empathy is focusing on the big picture. This means that for a client's case, a prosecutor and a judge look at your case as a complicated mess, something that went wrong in society, something that you created. You're making them do this extra work. You're making the court busy because of your actions. This is not the proper approach to your case, but it's very much how cases are handled. It's our goal to simplify your case and make things easier for all of the power brokers to best understand, to create a purpose and a vision behind your case. We need to apply peer pressure. This means that step by step, we gain the support of those in your case, starting with a prosecutor to understand that your case is more than the police report, to understand that you're a human being and to understand who you are in your family life, your career life, and your positive interactions with society. It also means demonstrating all of the proactive steps that we take together to change the perception of your case, to get the prosecutor on board with the path we wish to take. Once a prosecutor is on board, we then move on to the judge. And with the judge, we can firmly say the prosecutor is in agreement with the path we wish to take. That makes it easier and simpler for a judge to go along with our path. If the prosecutor's on board, well then this must make sense. This is something that I can join as well. If we have a prosecutor and we have a judge on board, we can certainly get probation on board. Going forward in your case, if there's going to be court supervision, we want someone that believes in your story and that is supportive of the progress you've already made. Applying peer pressure step by step allows us to use our informal power to influence your case and focus on the big picture. Step number 9 of leading with empathy is emerging from crisis. When charged with a crime, we enter crisis mode. Most view this as a negative, but in crisis, we have strength, we have focus, and we're more willing to make change. Through crisis in a criminal case, we focus on what is most important to us: your freedom, your family, your job, and your future. Crisis pulls us away from the day-to-day grind. Things that have been ignored for too long now come into focus. The majority of my clients end up charged with a crime due to not focusing on their emotional and their mental health, focusing on themselves. Most folks that are charged with a crime are not addressing issues that could have been prevented. They're also focusing on other people and not themselves. This is very common. When charged with a crime, we go into storm culture. You can survive a criminal case. You will survive this crisis. You will come out of this crisis a stronger more confident person because you're now going to make changes in your life. Change is not always easy, but in a crisis, it becomes necessary. You are forced to address issues in your life to make those changes and to come out a stronger person from crisis. Step number 10 of leading with empathy is stimulating empowerment. This means myself as the attorney, as the so-called expert, I take a step back and empower my client to create goals and to help creating the solution to succeed. This means taking a person that most folks would view as not having much power. A person charged with a crime looks powerless. But through my program, my client is empowered to help their case every single day to create overwhelming informal power and influence in order to change the hearts and minds of the prosecutor and the judge. A lot of people view a criminal case as formal power versus formal power, a battle, a feud. I disagree with this approach. The best outcome for a criminal case is empowerment, and empowerment through informal power of my client to take the lead in creating their own outcome with a solution that's geared towards their goals for their family, through their freedom, their career, and their future. Step number 11 in leading with empathy is a commitment to deep change. This means that the folks in the court are going to view your case as you do the crime, you pay the time. We need to change this mindset. We need to break the status quo. A judge and prosecutor are not going to be committed to deep change. They don't care about you as a person. They don't care about you with your job, your career, your family. It's not to say that they're bad people. They simply just don't have the time or commitment to look at each case and really understand who you are and what you need. It's my role as your attorney to create this path of deep change, to begin this change prior to even going to court, sometimes prior to even being charged with a crime. A commitment to deep change starts with you. It starts with your decision to say, this isn't who I am. This case does not define me. I want to demonstrate who I am and where I want to go. Challenging the status quo can be difficult, but having a path and a plan and the commitment to deep change is how we accomplish your goals. Step number 12 in leading with empathy is reflecting with discipline. It's easy to be charged with a crime and say you're sorry. It's easy to say this won't happen again. Unfortunately, words have very little value in the criminal justice system. The first step is reflecting upon what happened and understanding how you ended up in that situation. When charged with a crime, you're a wild card. The judge and prosecutor don't know anything about you. You may not even know why this happened. You may feel bad, you may feel sorry, but it doesn't mean you understand quite yet. Through a proactive process and leading with empathy, you learn how you ended up on the wrong side of the law. You're not a criminal. You may have committed a criminal act, but this should not define you. We need to call a timeout. We need to step back and reflect upon what led to this event. What changed in your life, in your mental, emotional, and physical well-being? Once we understand why we're here and we reflect, we can then create a path to real change. Discipline, reflection, requires deep learning by the client, setting goals for yourself in the present and the future, and telling your story to the judge and the prosecutor. Step number 13 in leading with empathy is finding your purpose. This means not adopting the comfort-centered mindset. Don't survive the case. Don't try to just get through it. It's easy to take on a big change and problem in your life and ignore it, accept the default outcome, and try to move on as quickly as possible. When charged with a crime in Michigan, this happens to 99.9% of folks. You're different. You're approaching your case seeking purpose. This was a life-changing moment. Don't run from conflict. Embrace it. Real change comes from conflict and difficult moments in life. Get out of your comfort zone. Embrace change. Embrace challenging the status quo. You deserve more than other folks charged with this crime. You deserve more because you're willing to turn this into an educational moment, to gain insight, to seek purpose, and to make real change. You're going to come out of this case a stronger person, a better member of your community, a better member of your family, and you're going to thrive in your career moving forward to be a better person. Embrace change. Find your purpose. This happened for a reason. Let's slow things down, reflect, and seek that very purpose. Step number 14 in leading with empathy is the importance of authenticity and integrity. This means when you're charged with a crime, the goal is to be yourself. You're not a criminal. You have a job, you have a family, you respect the law, and you're overall a very positive influence in your world. The goal is to be your authentic self, to lead with truth and integrity, to understand why this crime happened by stepping out of your comfort zone and being your true self. If this means crying, if this means being emotional, that's okay. This is a safe place for that. We must view your case as more than a name and a charge. We must humanize you. You are who you are, the good and the bad. The outcome of your case should not be reflected based upon an isolated moment in time. Transformative change by gaining adoption of the prosecutor and judge is very much possible. Don't fear the outcome. Don't fear what could happen. Instead, embrace being your true self and understanding you're good enough. Your true self can shine through your case, and if you lead with your authentic self, those in power of your case will give you optimal consideration. This only happens through actions. Mere words can't carry your story to the promised zone. Being proactive from day one, putting a step forward every single day, and impacting your case at every possible moment is how you achieve the very best result in your case. Leading with empathy starts with trust. This means our very first conversation together, as we get to know each other, must have a foundation in trust. It's very common for a client to contact me and give me the version of what happened that most favors them. Their interpretation of the case, their story, is what I hear first. It's important for me as a former prosecutor and now someone who represents you to get to the heart of the real story. There's going to be good, there's going to be bad. It's very unlikely that your story will be in the police report. Unfortunately, the prosecutor and the judge only see what's in the police report. And that police report may be balanced, it may be in favor of the police and the prosecution. It's certainly not going to be swayed in your favor. So I need to understand, as your attorney, what is the version of your case that will appear in the police report. Now, we'll eventually get the police report and other discovery. But our very first conversation, it's important for me to understand what we're going to be facing. Because at step one, you'll be judged and defined by the contents of that police report. Step two, where we change the perception and go outside of that police report, is how we change that. But we need to know the foundation of the case. What are the red flags that are going to show up in your case? How do we need to tackle your case? One example may be, in your case, there's alcohol involvement, and the client may not tell me that. But if the very foundation of the case is the alcohol, I need to know that right away, because we need to put proactive steps in place. We can't lose time discussing half-truths. When you reach out to me, our conversation is confidential. Even if we don't end up working together, leading with truth is how we get to a potential path to work together. Leading with empathy starts with trust. Step number 16 of leading with empathy is keeping an open mind to the world. This means that we must make the distinction between how we view the case and how the world views the case. As someone charged with a crime, it feels like the most important thing in the world. It feels like your world is crumbling, your career, your family, your freedom are all in jeopardy. You can easily view yourself as a victim. All of these negative things could happen to you. Unfortunately, the rest of the world does not view your case that way. The rest of the world, including the judge, the prosecutor, and the police, view you as the person who created this situation. If that is true, we must acknowledge that. We must become externally aware of the different perspectives of the power brokers in our case. Those other folks are going to view your case in a negative way. But to acknowledge how they view your case empowers us to change that perception. We must embrace a daily positive mindset. We must make progress on our case every single day, understanding that everyone else views our case in a different way than we do. Over time, our proactive efforts by leading with empathy is going to persuade those folks to view our case in a similar fashion that we do. We must keep an open mind to the rest of the world and view our case from all perspectives. Step number 17 of leading with empathy, flipping the script on the power brokers. This means that it's difficult to get those folks to come with us on day one. We can't tell them to dance differently. We can't tell them to act differently. But what we can do is we could change the music. By changing the music, they will naturally begin to dance differently. By adopting positive energy, leaning in on change, and every single day putting positive steps in place to humanize your case. Once the prosecutor and the judge hear this different music, to hear this real change, they will dance differently, they will view your case differently, and we gain tremendous power in influencing the outcome of your case. Flipping the script on power brokers by changing the music of your case. Step number 18 of leading with empathy: influence with your voice. When charged with a crime, you may feel powerless. You may feel like nobody will listen to me. Everyone is judging me. I can't change what happened. That is true. We can't change what has happened. But in the present, we must have the courage to engage both our head and our heart, to speak with truth and influence. Don't be embarrassed because you're charged with a crime. Your voice matters. Your voice is powerful. You're not a bad person. You're not a criminal. We must shift the case from the transaction mindset and be more than just a name and a charge. By using our voice and demonstrating the insight and knowledge we have gained from this moment, showing the path that we're on and the real change happening in our case, allows you to have a voice. You can have a powerful currency of positive energy, impressive accomplishments. By leading with trust and empathy, your voice is unlimited in its influence. Step number 19 of leading with empathy: finding purpose and deploying it for good. This means that throughout your case, you're going to find purpose and deploy it. Achieve the golden opportunity to be a transformational client. That higher purpose creates culture change and a new vision around your case, to live a more meaningful life because this case happened. A criminal case is an isolated moment, but the case must have everlasting change on your life. We must embrace the culture change, the vision change, and a long-term plan in how to move forward beyond your case. By finding your purpose and deploying it for good, the prosecutor and judge can be confident in where your case is going. It's important to understand that a judge and prosecutor are not going to empower you. They hold the power, they like power. We need to create our own informal power. Most cases are handled from a top-down approach. The judge and prosecutor ruling the case and using their power to those beneath them. A transformational client takes a bottom-up approach, using their informal power and their proactive progress to shift the entire power dynamic of the case, starting from below and slowly working your way up to the top, matching the formal power of the prosecutor and the judge with your informal power. When we find purpose, the judge and prosecutor will be aligned with our outlook of the case. The final step, step 20 of leading with empathy, is bringing it all together with purpose. During this case, you're going to achieve a lot of impressive accomplishments. You're going to transform your entire case with a proactive approach. The purpose we find are not mere words, they're pictures. It's important to envision yourself with this case behind you. Deep change has happened. How do you view your career, your family, and personal life after change? This is our higher purpose. Why are we putting in all of this hard work to achieve an exceptional outcome? During this case, we're going to be involved with organizations, agencies, other folks in the community. We're going to have to get things documented. We're going to have to get counseling letters documented, meetings documented, community service documented, work with agencies on drug and alcohol testing. This is just step one. Bringing it all together means gaining the support and trust of those we interact with. From our proactive program and gaining documentation, we're then able to share that with the prosecutor, to share your story, to go beyond that story and show the steps of your progress. Once a prosecutor is aligned with our plan, we can then move on to the judge and the probation department. The judge and probation view your case in a very formal way, and we must match that formality with the right documentation. A stepping ladder up the ranks with a bottom-up approach, step by step, sharing our purpose, documenting our progress, and telling your story. We bring your case together with purpose, with vision, and trust. You can transform your entire case if you believe in yourself. What motivates you for real change? What motivates you to transform your entire life after a difficult moment, but a very manageable moment? You have the power to shift your entire case to a moment of uncertainty, to a lifestyle of change.